Hey everybody, Donkey Storm here, and today we're going to be looking at a Mists of Tirna Scithe tanking guide. This was a plus 20 key that this pug group plus 2'd, so it was a real smooth run. I think this is a really good route for people that are trying to break into that higher key range. Maybe you got your KSM and you're looking to push a little bit higher, or really any level of key that's going to be a challenge for your group where you know you're coming in right around the time limit. This route I feel like is a nice mix of some advanced tactics, but also pretty safe, nothing too crazy going on here. And in addition to the route, I'm going to be going over the different things to worry about as you tank this dungeon. This is done from a Guardian Druid point of view, but I think the tips in here should be helpful to pretty much any tank, but Guardian Druids will be getting a little bit of extra attention here. Mists is a funny key. Back in Season 1, I think Mists was widely considered to be the easiest key, and I don't think that's the case anymore. Now that we don't have Prideful kind of carrying us through some of the tougher parts of this dungeon, it's become really tight. So we're going to, pull some shenanigans here to try and make this timer a little bit easier on us. And the first one is going to be actually to invis skip the Spite Claws and the Tirnan Villager at the beginning of the dungeon. So the reason that I'm choosing to skip this particular week, which is Fortified, Bursting, and Storming, is that those Spite Claws actually do a lot of damage on Fortified, even if you do dispel the magic buff that they have off of them. They're still going to jump around and put bleeds on people. They're still going to burst. They're all going to die roughly the same time. They have very low health. So your options here to start are generally either pull the Spite Claws with the Villager pack and fight them all at once, which is viable at times. But for a key like this one, I don't really like that idea too much. So instead, we're just going to skip this whole thing, and then we're going to invis. Oh, let's start the video here. And then we're going to invis the beginning and then do the standard skip at the next pack, but we're using the Monk, Paralyze, and Ring of Peace. So as you can see, we're sneaking through here. You got to be really careful. Both the Tirnan Villagers have True Sight, and if you get too close, you'll be seen, you'll die, and the key will essentially be over before it starts. So we all make it. The Monk is going to Paralyze and Ring of Peace this first mob, and then our first pull of the dungeon will be the Soul Cleavers and Harvesters here. I am going to incarn this pull. Just a quick note, my group asked if we were going to pull the Tormentor in with this group, and I had said no, mainly because I was worried about all the kicks that would need to be done with Arcalith here. Now, if I had known that these things were going to die as quickly as they're about to, I probably would have changed my mind. So these Harvesters do some nasty casts, particularly the Harvest Essence needs to be kicked. The Soul Cleavers get a buff at 20% where their melee attacks heal them. These things are dying so fast right now that they didn't even get a chance to cast anything, so I just immediately pull Incinerator Arcalith and jump on him right away. So it would have been okay for us to pull him in with that pack had I known that the group's DPS was going to be that high. This is a pug. Typically DPS isn't that high, so I think it was the safe call to let this one go. When you do fight this pack and it doesn't die that quickly, you're going to want to kite those Soul Flayers away. It's helpful to have a Night Fae open that door for you, or if you're quick enough, you can Typhoon them away, Soul Shape, and open it yourself. But you are going to want to create some space with them, unless you're in a situation like I was with Incarn running and them just dying so fast that it didn't matter. So we're killing Arcalith here, which is one of the good anima powers. And as a tank, always Crumbling Bulwark for the extra verse. We're going to grab a stat shroom here, and then we're going to skip around the Bow Breakers to get a second anima power, because that anima power will help us. Oros is definitely skippable in this dungeon, but not in this. I don't like the idea of skipping him in this position in the Ingram Malik boss room. Mainly because, I mean, you know, you get feared by this boss. You need some pretty decent coordination to make sure that you don't pull him in a pug. I'm just not going to take that chance. It's also tricky on Tredova to do with the movement speed decrease. If you've got really good movement speed, it's doable. But again, in a pug, I don't think that's necessary. So we're going to kill Oros. We're going to get our, you know, kind of useless anima power from him. I'm going to take the AoE damage one. And then we're going to do another little trick here. We're going to have our hunter pull Varuth through the wall. So any pet class can do this. I don't play a pet class, so I couldn't tell you exactly how, but I'm sure there's tons of videos about it. This is going to give us a third anima power before Ingram Malik and the double Bowbreaker pull, which is going to be helpful. And Varuth is one of the good anima powers, so we're going to smack him as soon as he walks through that door, stack up for the fear, and do the Varuth dance of stack and spread, stack and spread. Nothing too fancy here. But if you are a pet class, I would highly recommend learning this pull. This is becoming pretty standard for mists. So we're going to down him. And we're going to grab the Stygian King's Barbs here, which is just a nice little amount of free damage. And then we're grabbing the Bow Breakers. So I'm going to pop Incarn here. There's really no reason not to, because between now and my next Incarn cooldown, there's not going to be any big pulls or anything, so I figured I might as well just pop it here and help my healer out, since this is a pretty tough pull for healers. People generally are going to save their DPS cooldowns for boss. Well, they should be anyway, so these things tend to live quite a while. They do a lot of damage, so whatever you can do to help is always a good idea. And as soon as you see that they're going to do their Bramble Burst, you just want to move them so that everybody's got room to stay in melee. Pretty standard stuff here. They do a lot of damage on Fortified. On Fortified, it's definitely a good idea to not cleave them down together, but to focus on one. So you can see we've got one mark with the skull here to make sure that he's dying first. And now we go for the second guy. Like I said, these guys live for a long time because nobody wants to use their DPS cooldowns on these guys. So as soon as they die, now Ingra will become active. I'm going to start by thrashing them both and then kicking him immediately and facing this Droman away from the group, so that when he does his frontal, we just dodge to the side and then face him back away again. We don't want to accidentally blast our friends with the laser beam. We'll kick Ingra as we're able to. Yeah, we're just going to kind of drag him back along this wall toward where the Tormentor was. And then when he gets too far, we'll start dragging him back the other way. So the DPS burst is coming here in a moment, and I'm going to have Heart of the Wild coming off cooldown. I want to make sure that I get a good Heart of the Wild Convoke off during his burst phase, so he's got 10 seconds. So what I should have done here is actually shifted into Moonkin form and just gotten into an Eclipse. For some reason I just sit and bear, but I do get a chance to pop a Heart of the Wild Convoke, and we're able to one-phase this guy with some real nice DPS here. If you can one-phase this boss, you are in great shape. So we have 23 minutes going into the maze. That's really good. If you two-phase him, it's also very doable. If you get into 3 phases with this guy, you're going to have a rough time. So entering the maze, we want to throw a mark on Mistcaller and get at least one free maze solve, so you can watch. I put a skull on her. You can watch which direction she goes. Don't forget to pay attention to that. So she's going left. That's a free maze solved there. And now again, I asked the hunter to pull through the wall here. Since we skipped all that trash at the beginning of the dungeon, we're way down on percentage. We're only at 10% right now. You can actually, again, pet classes can wall pull the large group to the right into this double defender pull, and you can make up some trash this way. And as a guardian druid, as you can see, my incarn just came off cooldown, so this is going to line up perfectly. I'm facing the defenders away from my group, and then as soon as those guys pop through that wall there, I'm going to pop incarn. I'm going to start thrashing like crazy and keeping them faced away from my group. The main danger mob here for you is the Shaper. You want to make sure you kick that Bramble Thorn Coat cast. You don't want that going off. And then you can stun and use your AoE stun abilities as necessary to just kind of stun this stuff out. As you can see, Volcanic Plumage is doing a lot of work here, bouncing these guys up and down and interrupting their various bullshit. And they are all going down. So that was a pull of almost 10% there. So we're getting caught up. That's the last wall pull we're going to do. You can do more. Some of the ones later are a little bit more dangerous, and the way that we're chugging through this key right now, I'm thinking we can probably play it pretty standard and feel good about where we're at. So these defenders always face away from your group and then move out of their conal ability. The stalkers do a lot of damage, and you're going to be your priority target. You can stun out that cast that they do where they jump on people and leave the nasty bleed on them. We want to stun that out whenever we can. So one important key of the maze before we go too much further. You'll notice that throughout this maze, every time a pack dies, we are immediately opening the door. And that's because our paladin is taking care of this while we're cleaning up this trash. This is so important. If you are in one of those groups where you clear out the pack and then everybody goes and stands by a stump and you solve the maze, you lose so much time that way. I would say by the end of the maze, you probably lost the amount of time equivalent to like a full wipe. It's really slow. I do think that the healer is the best person for the job here because their DPS is the most negligible, and you can generally heal while solving the maze as long as the right things are being interrupted and stunned out. So this paladin's doing a nice job solving the maze as we kill the mob, so that every time the trash is cleared, we're ready to go through the door. He's also using the weak aura that will solve for you after so many steps, and he's marking each door, so he did a really nice job helping us get through here. All right, so another defender group. Nothing that needs to be kicked in here, but you can interrupt that anima injection, and again, you just want to face those defenders away in order to not get your group cleaved down. And you can stun out that stalker, which we didn't do a great job of. But again, there it is, marked with a skull. We know which door it is, so we're not losing any time to that. Now we've got a Shaper and Tender pull, so this one's a little bit more tricky. Shaper and Tender's casts must be interrupted. They are basically potentially group wiping. And then you've also got the Guardian, which does the bucking rampage thing, which is super annoying if you've got melee in your group because they basically can't do anything. You want to stun that out as you can. And of course, kick that Tender. The heal over time he puts on on the group will heal them almost to full. And if you don't have a mass dispel or some way to get it off the mobs, you're going to have a real bad time with that. Alright, so here we get the, I guess this is a Hydra mini boss. He hurts a little bit. He does that triple bite, which puts a pretty nasty little poison on you. So you can see I'm getting chunked pretty hard by this guy. So you do need to commit some defensives here. Now there are other opportunities to wall pull here. I didn't feel like our group needed to do that. I didn't want to risk doing anything too wild and wiping when it seemed like we were already pretty far ahead of the timer. So we're playing it pretty standard here, and just committing defensives to this guy as necessary. And then as soon as he goes down, you can see the door is already marked. We're going to be heading through to the next section of the maze. Okay, so this is a Shaper pull again. So immediately we're facing these guys away. There's actually no conal in this one. I'm just kind of used to doing it that way. There's that bunking rampage. We're going to stun that out. Are we going to stun that out? We do stun that out, or it gets stunned by something. And since Incarn was up here, no real reason not to use it. Unless you plan on a big wall pull, which we're not, you might as well just use it on cooldown in here on one of the larger packs. So we get 2 Mistcaller at 52%. That's still really low percentage for the maze, so we're gonna need to make up some percent in the Gorm area. We're still behind from our decision to do the invis skip at the beginning. So for Mistcaller, the biggest thing you need to do is interrupt the patty cake, since you're the only person that can interrupt that. You're also going to want to position her away from the Vulpins. So if you see that thing spawn in melee, as soon as you see that circle go down, you want to get her out of there ASAP. If that thing hits someone in melee, everybody's getting frozen, and pretty good chance you're going to wipe. So also as a bear, you can hibernate it every time. Here I do a Heart of the Wild Convoke, which is nice, except it does put a couple dots on the Vulpin, so that's going to be hard to CC. Hunter gets a binding shot on it. Now, when you identify the correct clone here, you do want to move Mistcaller over there and try to get some damage on it. Now, I was slow on that one because the Vulpin was literally in the way. And here we're moving Mistcaller away from the Vulpin. So typically I would hibernate that thing every single time, but the mage seems really intent on Frost Novaing it, so I'm just kind of letting him do that. But you can use hibernate on every single Vulpin, and that's something as a druid you should keep in mind. So there's one in melee. We're going to move Mistcaller away immediately, so that no melee get hit, or maybe don't notice it. Now here we're going to solve the maze, kick the patty cake, and now we can get some DPS on the clone safely, knowing that patty cake won't be coming for a while. There's another melee Vulpin, so we're going to move Mistcaller away. Just be ready for that patty cake. There it is. Kick it. Kicking the patty cake is super important because you're the only one that can do that, and that's like instant death on many levels, so you want to avoid that. So we're going to get one more guessing game here. We're looking around to solve it. There's a patty cake. Okay, once patty cake's out, now I decide again to stay away from the clone, because the Vulpin's CC'd right next to it, and there's a pretty good chance, my typical rotation is probably going to break him out, so I decided to just keep Mistcaller away and be safe. The Hunter died to something at some point, and we just quickly B-res him, and we're ready to move on. So we're going into the Gorm area at 52%. That's very low percentage. We have a lot to make up here. You can also see we have a lot of time. We got 14 minutes as we head down the waterfall. So we're going to need to do some big pulls down here to make up for that skip that we did. But that's okay. The Gorms are pretty efficient. So real quick, I want to talk about, and here I'm going to tell the mage to go get the seed. We're going to skip Sagadon. And I think that's totally okay to do. So Sagadon puts an aura on the last boss if you skip him that makes the boss do more physical damage. I've heard a lot of people talk about the bugs that Tredova spawns doing physical damage too. I can't say that I see any evidence that they do any more damage, or if they do, it seems pretty negligible. So I think Sagadon is a great skip, especially when he's in this particular location. You're in no danger of pulling him. You can just walk right next to him and move on to the next pack, and that's what we're going to do here. So you'll see in a little bit the effect that physical damage buff has on Sagadon. So the main thing with these Gorm groups is to just kind of sit on the Staghorn and make sure that thing gets kicked. So we're going to do a single pull here, and then we're going to follow this up with some larger ones. Again, based on our time, I don't think we need to do anything too extreme here. But we do need to make up quite a bit of percentage. So we're going to kind of do a double pull, and then sort of a rest pull, and then another double pull, and we're going to do that 3 times to make up this percentage. So we're going to head down the ramp here. We're going to pull the group to the right and then the group straight ahead. There's only one Staghorn in here, so this is pretty safe to do. There's not multiple kicks to worry about. We also have Incarn up. It is typically up at this point, so I'm going to pop that. I'm going to be totally fine tanking all this stuff. As you can see, I'm just going to target that Staghorn and make sure that he gets kicked. You can stun out those green globs in order to, help your buddies not have to move out of them or get booped off the side. And you can see again volcanic plumage doing some work and bouncing these things up. Now here, let's rewind that for a second. So a storming nicks me into a green blob, and I need to soul shape myself back onto the platform. So luckily we're able to quickly 360 no scope that move, because if we get knocked off there, that's going to cost us a bunch of time. Now here I'm going to do another kind of questionable thing. If you can avoid these Spine Maw Reavers, it's a good idea to do so. I'm going to say that in Pugs I have very little success avoiding these things. So I'm looking at the clock. I'm seeing that we've got almost 13 minutes left, and we're almost to Tredova already. I'm just going to pull these so they don't accidentally pull later. These do a lot of damage. When they jump on your group unexpectedly, it can be real nasty. So my thought process here is let's just kill these things now. We can afford the time. And it also gives me a chance to get my Incarn back up for the next big pull. So we're going to kill these guys. I think once they start getting a little bit low, we'll grab the next single pull. And then we'll kind of get ready for our big Incarn pull following that. These Reavers on their own are not that dangerous, but when they get combined with some of the other stuff going on in these packs, they can be pretty rough. So I don't think this was a bad idea to just get these guys out of the way. Now we've got 2 minutes on Incarn, and we've got a single pull here with one Staghorn to kick. So we're going to make sure that we do that. We're just going to spread our Moonfires around and kind of let everybody recharge on this smaller pull. We are starting to get a little bit low here. I think our Paladin is very focused on damage, and to his credit, he's doing a lot. He's doing 6k overall, which is pretty excellent. Now, once these things go down, honestly, typically at this point, I'm used to having Incarn again, but we're blasting these things so hard. I still have 50 seconds on it, so I'm a little bit concerned here because I typically would have Incarn for this pull, so I'm going to make sure I grab some aggro on this first pack. I'm going to pop a few defensives here, Survival Instincts, and lots of Iron Furs to keep myself up. And then I pull the second pack in. There's still 30 seconds left on Incarn, so this is getting pretty iffy. I think I'm going to Typhoon. Yeah, I'm going to Typhoon here, and we're also having some aggro issues. So this got pretty messy. Typically, you're going to have Incarn up for this pull, and you're just going to run in and thrash like crazy. With 10 seconds left, I don't know. I imagine I'm not going to use it here. If I do, I think that's kind of a mistake. They're almost dead. Don't do it. Okay, cool. I don't do it. Yeah, so we're going to do, well, at this point, we're going to be at roughly 90%. Yeah, 90% going into Tradova. We're going to need 2 more pulls to make that. So I asked the group if CDs are up. I get a no. So to me, that means, all right, we're going to go do some trash and clean this percentage up before we get to Tradova. So we're going to double pull here. This group with the Staghorn. Now, this one is a little bit iffy because we got 2 Staghorns in here. We're going to pop Incarn. We're going to sit on 1 Staghorn and make sure that that one gets kicked. So we get that one, and then we do... This is the first time we've let really any cast go through. So he gets that regen cast off, which is not ideal. But we've got Ashen Hallow going down here, and just all kinds of damage going into this pack. So we're able to make it through here, and we're gonna just kind of start walking back toward Tradova, because this is gonna get us just over 100% on trash. So when we get this first Staghorn here, we hit 100, so we're gonna be a little bit over. Mist is kind of hard to predict. You never know what you're going to come out of that maze with. We were very short on percentage, so we didn't really have much choice but to pull this. And now here we got Tradova. So this is Tradova with the Sagadon buff up. So you are going to see that Tradova's hitting me pretty hard. I'm also having a graphical issue with my swirlies on the ground. You kind of notice them flickering in and out, which added a degree of difficulty I wasn't totally prepared for on this boss. But even then, on a fortified key, it's not that big a deal. The larva spawn, they're fixating the paladin, and as you can see here, that paladin's not really taking a whole lot of damage. So I'm not convinced that Sagadon's aura affects him, or affects them and their damage. And if it does, it seems pretty negligible. So from here, we're pretty much just walking across the finish line. If this was tyrannical, this would be a lot scarier. But on a fortified week, we've already kind of done our job, and we're just gonna take this guy out. As a tank, it's a good idea to get the parasite kicks and let your group get the consumption. The parasite kick is what's really deadly here. The consumption is super obvious. Anybody can get that, but as a tank, it's a really good idea to just handle those parasites yourself. That way you can be sure that nobody's going to get that mechanic. Now, we do lose the mage to the acid puddles, and we're just going to pop him and finish off Tradova, and this is going to be a +2 Mist's key in the bank on a level 20. And now you can see I don't know exactly what this bug that I was getting was, but it was not a lot of fun to not be able to see all the stuff on the ground. I definitely got hit by stuff I wouldn't have normally been hit by. So there we go. That is a Mist's 20 +2. I think that route is a really good one for people who are trying to kind of move into some higher keys. But it's doable at any level. Anytime you think this is going to be a tight squeeze for your group, I think that invis at the start is a really good way to go. It's also totally viable to not do that invis skip and just take it slow. So anyway, I hope you learned something from this. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a comment in the comment section. Hit that subscribe button so that you can see more of my content. Like the video, and I will catch you guys next time.